Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Steven. So, this week's blog is entitled The Final Debate. And many of you probably watched the last presidential debate in Nashville last weekend or last week, and may or may not have actually had some thoughts. You may, if you were an undecided voter, actually been motivated to go to one camp versus the other. And that's actually one of the major things that I wanted to discuss. The media has been playing up this entire idea that there are all of these undecided voters. And they look at them as almost with a sense of religious awe. These stoic individuals that are waiting to the very last minute to study the issues with extreme due diligence and ultimately coming up with who they're going to vote for. I find this to be a wholly inadequate level of analysis, to be quite candid with you. At this point in the game, if you are an undecided voter, I would suggest you are probably an underinformed voter, or more to the point, your interests are not aligned with a deep-rooted understanding of political philosophy, that instead you're either focusing exclusively on a single issue political agenda, or alternatively, you are simply looking at this from a personality contest. That notwithstanding, I thought the debate was somewhat interesting. I think that Donald Trump probably secured a victory as far as the debate was concerned. And if we look at my previous blog and we look at all of the debates in their totality, I think he ultimately probably prevailed. Many of you probably already are aware of this. The most interesting aspect of this was Joe Biden's admission that he is fundamentally opposed to fossil fuels. Now, this is problematic, obviously, for three states that are potentially in play, the two biggies being Pennsylvania and Texas, and the last one being Oklahoma. Being allied against the interests that are antagonistic towards the development of fossil fuels effectively means that you're going to be putting a boatload of people, a boatload of voters in those states out of work at one point or another. We saw immediately after the debate all sorts of damage control on the part of the Biden campaign trying to correct his record, so to speak, or make a more nuanced approach to it. Whether or not he's successful, well, that will be told, hopefully, next Tuesday. And in fact, this is the last blog before next Tuesday's election. And because of that, I wanted to take sort of a moment to kind of go over this, all right? There are a number of different candidates that are running for election. Obviously, the two big ones are going to be Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Many people have said this is the most important election of our lifetimes. It's interesting how every 4 years it's the most important election of our lifetime. So I'm not entirely sure that I accept that level of hyperbole. That being said, there is definitely a lot on the line this election. Chief amongst those is whether or not we effectively have a counter-revolution. I look at Donald Trump as being a revolutionary president, somebody who has fundamentally altered the establishment of the government-industrial complex, both domestically and on an international level. I'm not going to sit there and tell you how to vote. I think that's wholly inappropriate on the part of anybody. I will tell you that I am voting for Donald Trump, all right? I am not voting for Donald Trump because I have a deep-seated love of his personality, nor am I voting for Donald Trump because I think he is particularly good-looking. I think, quite candidly, both of those, as far as a level of analysis is concerned, is entirely inappropriate when it comes to a national leader. I do believe that the president is responsible for having a bully pulpit where he must lead the country from the standpoint of a level of stoicism that essentially asks people to be better than themselves. I think that is important whether it's a presidential leader or an executive leader in any sort of business. I think that people look to others to give them guidance on how to be better individuals themselves. And I think that in that respect, Donald Trump has probably failed. Okay. Um, but when we look at some of the great heroes in our country's history, from Ulysses S. Grant to, Thomas Jefferson, their ability to get elected in today's environment is definitely suspect, because they weren't exactly great orators, or for that matter, even particularly likable individuals on a one-on-one basis. So I'm not sure that it ultimately is all that important. What is important at a very fundamental level are results. It was interesting. Donald Trump is very different from Barack Obama. Barack Obama once asked about a particular policy. He said he's not overly concerned about the policy. He needs to make sure that we get the process right. All right, that was important to him, was the process. Donald Trump, his attitude is kind of like, I could care less about the process. I want to focus on the outcome. Right now, I believe that our country needs to be far more focused on the outcome than the process. Regardless of whether you agree with me or disagree with me, want to vote for Donald Trump for one reason versus another that are not aligned with mine, or you want to vote for Joe Biden, that's perfectly acceptable too. The only thing that I ask is that you exercise this right. At the very, very base level, our country is based on an idea that power emanates to the sovereign from the sovereign. We are the sovereign. We are the ones who grant power to our elected officials. When we don't vote, that is an abdication of our civic responsibility. So whether you agree with me or you wholly disagree with me is utterly irrelevant to this equation. What I need you to do is exercise your right as a human being and vote. Anyways, regardless of the outcome, and hopefully we get one next Tuesday, train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and above all else, stay safe.